The holiday season is here. We'll tell you about a couple of events happening in the city, the rise of AI, and what is going on in Caddo Parish. Let's get to it all. Roll it, Kyle. Oh man, this much closer to Christmas. One of my favorite holidays, mostly because of the food and the football. Let's talk a little bit about some business going on. Speaking of food and football, State Representative C. Denise Marcel is here with us. Now, we're going to get to the legislative stuff, but there's a couple of events happening this weekend that you're responsible for, even more so than maybe you want to be. On Saturday, and Kyle, we could put these graphics up. On Saturday, you've got a Christmas event, toy giveaway, and then there it is on the screen. The Santa Road Show that's happening from 10 a.m. to noon. Let's talk a little bit about that event.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me to be on your show.
You got it.
That event is an annual toy giveaway that I sponsor every year with the help of a lot of people. Thank you for your sponsorship.
You're welcome.
And the Cajun Navy, YWCA, Gordon McKernan, so many people that come together to make sure that kids who need toys will get those toys.
Yeah.
And so we'll be at the Gus Young facility on this Saturday, giving those toys away.
How many folks you expect out there?
I'm expecting about 500 kids to show up for this event. That's about what we had last year. It could be more.
It's nothing like coming to events like that, and when the doors open and the kids come in and they see what's happening. That's probably, my kids are all grown now, but that was the thing about Christmas that I enjoyed the most, is the reaction that kids have to getting toys and that whole thing.
Yeah, and what my event does is kind of different from a lot of the other events. I allow the kids to pick the toy that they want. So all the toys are out. Well, if you want a basketball, you can choose a basketball. If you want a doll, you can choose a doll. And there's so many gifts out there for them to choose from. I certainly want to thank all of my sponsors, because it would not be possible without them. We also have the Santa booth where they can take pictures. All of that stuff is absolutely free. And of course, we always feed people at Gus Young, so we'll have snacks for the kids as well, and a little entertainment.
You know, I don't think we often think about the fact that there's some kids who are in homes where there's a tough situation and they may not be able to have the same kind of Christmas as people in other places. That's why events like this are so important.
They are important.
Yeah. Let's talk about Sunday now. So your nephew, who plays for the Minnesota Vikings, that's the only thing I can hold against him, is
don't hold that against him.
So I do hold it against him, you know. But this is an event in Gardere. There it is on the screen. It's at the Breck Park there. This is from 2:30 to 4. So let's talk about your nephew first, and then tell me about this other toy giveaway.
So my nephew went to school, elementary school, and he lived in the Gardere area. I've been trying to get him to move this event, but he's not hearing it. So he wants to give back to the neighborhood where he started, from very humble beginnings. And last year he did it when he was at LSU. And so this year, obviously, he's in the NFL.
Yeah.
So he wants to continue the event where we give away toys and clothes to the kids in that area. They can come in, pick the same type of event as Gus Young, except that these kids will have an opportunity and their parents will have an opportunity to get free clothes and the toys that they need.
Next time you bring a graphic with him, though, don't have him in the Minnesota Vikings jersey. I don't want to see that on my screen again. I did it for you this time. All right, let's talk. So the new year is beginning, and the new administration is coming in, obviously, and there's a philosophical change, obviously, between John Bel Edwards and Attorney General, Governor-elect Landry. What do you expect from the new administration?
Well, first of all, I'm going to be optimistic.
Okay.
And say that I hope that there's some fairness in the committee selections, and I hope there's some leadership by women in those committees, and also African Americans and Democrats. I think that this state is made up of Democrats and Republicans, and it shouldn't be one-sided.
Right.
I do believe, however, because there's obviously more Republicans than Democrats, that we're going to have committees that are lopsided. We had many of those last time. I just want to have some fairness in the debates, and we both can agree to disagree on some things, but I would hope that those debates would be civil.
What do you expect in the way of a special session? We were talking about this a second ago. There's going to be one early in the year. Is there anything about that you can tell us?
Well, first of all, I think when they heard that I was coming to be in the legislature, what, 8, 9 years ago, they decided to have a special session every single time. So I think the special sessions started when I showed up, because we've never
So it's
not
your
had
fault.
one. I think
Okay,
it's
all
my
right,
fault.
okay, all
Let's
right.
start with that. I think that we're going to see us go in, and I think the map has to be already drawn. If it's not already drawn, although we haven't seen it, then it's impossible to get it through. I think they're going to push something through H&G and try to get it passed, or there will be this delay, one or the other. And you know, I think ultimately it's going to be a delay. I think it's ultimately going to be a delay anyway, because the maps that we've already drawn, in fact, a bill that I carried was in the lawsuit. And so we could really use those maps. I think they're fair, but I don't see them accepting those maps. They have not accepted them so far. I think they're going to draw something that we're going to end up back in court, and it's going to be drawn out again.
Right before that session starts, will you come back and talk with us about that?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
So quickly here, Kyle, on the screen, if we can, let's start with Saturday. Again, if you're out and about Saturday, there is an event at Gus Young, a toy giveaway. It's going to be fantastic being out there. Pretty nice weather we're expecting this weekend too. And then on Sunday, please excuse the jersey this young fella's wearing, but there's a toy giveaway in the Gardere area at the Breck Park there, and go out and support him. Look, I love the fact that these athletes now are so community focused and doing what they do. That's amazing.
Well, he didn't have any choice. I'm his aunt. He grew up giving away stuff with me. I drag him to everything I go to. So he really wanted to be here, but they have a game, so he can't be here. But I think he's sending a video on some other stuff for the kids. So I appreciate him following in his aunt's footsteps.
Back in just a moment. So Charles Masters is back, senior partner with IBM here, and we're going to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence, the rise of AI. So Charles, first of all, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Thank you so much.
Just this week, Tesla announced that they're recalling almost all of their cars because of some glitch in the autopilot.
Okay.
And being here in Baton Rouge and noticing the kinds of drivers we have on the roads here, you would have to be out of your mind to trust the car to drive and not handle the wheel yourself. But that's just an example of how technology is taking the place of people doing things.
Yes.
What's your impression of the upside and the downside of artificial intelligence?
Certainly, and first let me just address that one, right? So the level of risk in different use cases, everyone's different, right? So if it's a chatbot on how to be able to vote, which we did, right? That's a little bit lower risk. Being an autonomous vehicle, of course, that's higher risk. We've got to make sure we have the right regulations and keep people safe. So, great question about the rise. I like the word you use there, rise. So really, we are 1 year and 2 weeks since the rise of ChatGPT. And that gained a lot of attention. Now, as you know, AI is not new, right? So over a decade, really my employees, my team here in Baton Rouge and across North America has been using AI to develop software pretty much on every project, so it's not new. And we also know that flashy consumer use cases is not where the value is. The value is in business. The value is in bringing additional efficiencies within business. So that's really where the excitement is. That's what we're focused here in Baton Rouge, is the ability to leverage AI to bring a lot of value to business. Now let me give you some numbers, right? I mean, really great question about the rise. So now let's think about business. So this is really the pros, the positive. 16 trillion. 16 trillion in economic global impact by 2030. That's a big number. So really AI, when you think about AI and the benefit, it's really about spurring economic benefit. 80% of businesses, like in Baton Rouge, more than 80%, are considering generative AI. 95% of jobs can benefit from AI. So that's really the positive.
So let's talk about that, because when you think about technology and some of the technology that's out there, it kind of does remove the need for people doing something. So what's the What's the balance there between the number of jobs eliminated because of the benefit to the business
Right.
versus being able to assist without losing people in a company?
Perfect. Well, really it's efficiency. It's not elimination. But let me give you, let's all think about history,
Yeah.
right? The steam engine, creating automobiles, right? There's been a lot of technology advances. Think about the last 10 years and the technology advances. So it's really not about elimination. It's about making jobs more efficient and better and moving people to higher, more exciting, higher paid jobs.
Yeah.
Now, the really great thing about Baton Rouge is the team here in Baton Rouge, and as you know, I lead the North America Client Innovation Centers, right? So really, we're the people that put AI to work. We're the ones that create, and we make sure that there's benefit in everything that we build for people.
Yeah, it's so interesting to think about all of the things that AI adds. I'm a big time efficiency person, and then technology can actually help you do 2 and 3 things at one time,
Right.
depending on your mastery of it.
Right.
If you were advising a business, if they're listening to you and you say, what could I add to my company's systems, internal systems, using AI that would make me better? What would be your first suggestion?
I'm going to give you a couple. It's really policies,
Okay.
and it's really what we live by in our client innovation centers. So really the policy that I would say that business should look at is first, does it help people? So that's number one. So the organization looks at, does it help people? Number two, they need to look at to see if it's open.
Okay.
So all AI should be open, right? It's not just something that we build for ourselves. It's open and shared. Number three is about data, right? And so we all know that the fuel, everything we build in the Client Innovation Center in Baton Rouge, whether it's a mobile app or it's something on Open Hybrid Cloud or uses AI, it's all fueled by data. So I would ask that organization about their data and ensuring that whatever is built, whatever observations AI brings about, that they make sure that they own the rights for that. And then finally, I got one more.
Yeah.
This is the one that a lot of the discussion is all about,
Okay.
is making sure that it's trusted, that whatever that business builds is trusted. And we need to make sure that it's transparent in how AI comes up with the answers and that it creates no harm.
When am I getting my tour?
Well, you missed the ugly sweater contest yesterday.
He told me he had somebody at his in his shop wearing an Alabama
This is true.
ugly sweater, which that sweater would be ugly even in any time.
But Clay, they won crowd participation because of the booze.
So great. Listen, man, we appreciate what you're doing, and we'll be able to report back to you on our tour once I can find out what I can tell you about. All right.
Excellent.
Coming up next, let's talk about the sheriff's race in Caddo Parish. And by the way, if you get a chance, check out the audio podcast as we talk about that and a few other things. Back in just a moment. So, we don't even need cameras, John and I, to talk about politics. The way we'll sit and talk about polls and elections and all this stuff. And so we've got a really interesting one happening in Caddo Parish. Last year during the election cycle, there was a race for sheriff where Henry Whitehorn, former state police superintendent, member of the U.S. Marshals, is the candidate on the Democratic side. And then John Nicholson is the Republican who's running. And the election ended with Whitehorn winning by 1 vote. And you knew there was going to be a recount, and then there was. They found more votes. Whitehorn still won. So Nicholson's team goes to district court to have the election thrown out, to get another election. It then goes to the appellate court because Colonel Whitehorn appealed it. Now the appellate court has kicked it back, saying let's do another election. And JC, looks like we're going to have the Supreme Court potentially be petitioned for this. There's no guarantee they even decide to see it. What's your take on all this?
Bush versus Gore 2023 edition.
You old enough to remember that, kids? Hanging chads and all that?
Yeah.
So let's talk about it.
So the thing about it that's very controversial, and the reason I'm using the Bush versus Gore analogy is there's an emotional side to this race and there's the logical side.
Yeah.
I, of course, will focus on the logical side.
Okay.
So what we're talking about here is a race that you are correct, both before and after a limited recount of mail-in ballots. And noticing how I'm parsing my words here, because I'm saying there was a machine recount, which meant there was no hand recount done. They did not do any checking of the in-person early votes, nor did they do any checking of the election day votes. So you're talking about a limited universe of 7,800 of 43,000 votes cast. That was the scope of the investigation. And in that even limited investigation, they found 11 questionable votes. We're talking about double votes, felons voting, ineligible voters, and so forth. And so what the justices, both at the trial and the appellate court, concluded was those 11 votes were enough to throw substantial doubt as to the, you could be confident in the election results. So they're going to put it in, assuming that, well, first off, Whitehorn has to appeal to the Supreme Court. He has a 48-hour deadline to do so, which I assume he will. And the Supreme Court would probably, and I'm always saying probably because when you get into the legal world, things can happen. The Supreme Court will probably affirm what the appeals and the trial courts have done, which is say, hey, we need a new election. But what causes this to have such an emotional tint to it is that the election was held under circumstances that were quite favorable to the Democrats, because in the runoff in November, the black percentage of the electorate went from 39 to 44% in Caddo Parish. And because what happened was you had a state Senate runoff which comprised half of Caddo Parish.
Yeah.
That was pretty much the only thing on the ballot there other than the statewide runoffs, is this one little tiny state Senate race. If you were to move the election to March, which is what petitioners want to do, you would then be conducting elections under far more favorable circumstances for the Republicans, because you would have a presidential primary going on where Trump versus DeSantis versus Haley is going to consume the vast majority of the oxygen in the room. So that's the emotional part behind the logical part, as I just laid out to you.
And the Speaker of the House is now from Caddo Parish.
Well, technically Bossier Parish, but yes.
From the area.
Right, close enough.
So I'm going to get your prediction on this, but let me just say this. I personally know Henry Whitehorn. I've known him a long time.
Right.
Any questioning of his personal integrity is garbage.
Right.
He is one of the finest humans I have ever met. Now, if I'm the other candidate and I lose by one vote, I want to recall too. I want to check. I mean, that's
Right.
just politics. However, I personally do not believe that Henry Whitehorn would be a part of anything nefarious or untoward about an election. That's me going on record. I don't know Nicholson,
Right.
but I know Henry Whitehorn, and he's qualified to be sheriff anywhere in America.
Right.
I just want to put that on wax for y'all. So that's my thing. What's your prediction about what happens in 30 seconds?
I assume the Supreme Court will probably agree with what the appeals and the trial courts have ruled already,
Yeah.
just because you have enough questionable votes to cast substantial doubt as to the outcome, which means a March rerun.
So, the first show in January, I got to have you back, because at that point, it's going to air right before the inauguration of a new governor. And you heard Representative Marcel. There is going to be a special. So we got to talk about what that looks like.
Correct. There's a lot of topics that could be on the special.
All right. Back to talk more about Christmas. Y'all stay right there. It's been a busy one, but let's end with something super positive. Pastor Brandon Buckley is here, and coming up next weekend will be this event, a Christmas bike giveaway. It's going to be on Winborn Avenue, which is the area where the Inspiration Center will one day stand. Every kid needs a bike. Again, as we talked with Rep. Marcel earlier, sometimes we don't think about the kids who during the holiday season don't live in houses with resources to give them what most kids get. And so, Pastor, let's talk about it. I've been knowing this guy a long time, and the funny thing is, I don't remember the last time we were in the same room. It's been years.
Yes, it has.
So the first time we talk again is in front of a TV camera.
Sure.
How you been, man?
Really good. What about you?
I'm great. So tell me about this event.
So this event, number one, is our 8th year.
Wow.
And I want to say thank you for sharing it as well. Our 8th year, and this event is about understanding the impact on a bike, you know, with a bike for kids, man. I think about a bike for kids, we compare it to a car for an adult. And so that's just that impression that we want to make on kids. You've got a lot of toy giveaways. You can go all over town and receive a toy.
Sure.
But this event was about us, that ticket item which is that bike for the kid. It brings a different smile, and so we wanted to make that impact.
You said 8 years, man. Any idea how many bikes y'all have given away in that period of time? Would you venture a guess at it?
Definitely over 1,000 for
Over
sure.
1,000 bikes, really?
You know, our quota is always 100
Okay,
bikes, and so
okay.
we've always looked to increase that. And so, yes.
Wow. So, you know, being a pastor and coming into this time of the year, I think the stress of the holiday season is always so crazy for so many people. And the pressure to make certain that kids, if you have kids in the home, have a memorable Christmas. How are you advising your congregation and others to proceed during the holidays, to not forget the spirit of the season, but also to not put all that pressure on themselves?
Yeah, you know, and it's a great question that you mentioned, because I think it's a time where I live by this something that I think you have to experience it to know the power of it.
Okay.
The greatest blessing is to be a blessing.
Yeah.
And one of the things that will help you if you're going through tough times right now, and the holiday spirit, seeing everyone purchase, if that pressure is on you, I believe the greatest way to get it off of you is be a blessing to someone else.
That's good. That's good. Look, on Christmas, the only thing I want is for my 49ers to beat the Ravens.
Wow.
You all right, Wes? So let's talk about you, goals for the new year. Tell me about that.
Goals for the new year. For me, one of the main things I want to do is increase my impact on Baton Rouge youth. It's one of the things for me as a pastor, as we look forward to building or purchasing our first facility. I mentioned to our congregation recently, I want the largest facility to be for the kids, the smaller facility for the adults. Why? It's because I don't believe our kids are our future. I believe our kids are our now.
1,000%.
And so I just believe that we've got to be aggressive on our impact, our impression, and our impartation on our kids. And so my goals are all around my impact on Baton Rouge youth.
Well, let's put that graphic up one more time, Kyle. And it's happening on the 23rd. There you see it, 10 a.m., 6180 Winborn Avenue. And you can go out, participate, and watch some kids have a fantastic Christmas. Pastor, we appreciate you doing this for the community, man, and glad to have you on. And don't be a stranger in 2024.
Sure.
All right, next week we will have a conversation. The full show is going to be with Mayor President Sharon Weston Broome. We'll talk about goals for the new year, get her thoughts on this year that has gone by. And then she's running for a third term. And there's some names out there, Ted James, that have been talked about as potential challengers for her. So we'll have a full conversation next week with Mayor President Sharon Weston Broome. And check out the audio podcast right now. Episode 290 is up at podcast225.com. We talk about what happened in Caddo, talk about artificial intelligence, and I give you my thoughts on Jaden Daniels. Y'all check it out, podcast225.com. See you next week.